So looking back, you actually, you went to where'd you go?
I went to UW for undergrad, and then I went to Pepperdine for law school and business school.
Yeah. And so what drove you to law school? That was kind of an interesting path.
I always wanted to go to law school as a kid. Like growing up was something that I always thought I wanted to do. I don't know, maybe my parents pushed me towards it. I don't know. Yeah. But something I always wanted to do. I was always argumentative, and teachers always said you should be a lawyer. So it was something that probably as a young person I had as kind of part of my identity that I wanted to do. I had wanted to go into politics a lot as a kid. I know law school is one of the routes to do that. I never wanted to be a lawyer. Even you could ask any of my professors my first year of law school. I told everyone I was not going to be a lawyer, and every time they said, "Oh, when you all take the bar," and I said, "I'm never going to take the bar because I'm not going to be a lawyer." People didn't really believe me, but it was true. It was always something that I did for myself, for education. I wanted to be knowledgeable. I learned a ton. It was a really valuable couple of years of my life. And
if you could break down one or two things that you have brought to your entrepreneurial life from law school, what would they be?
I write really good emails, and I think that's something you learn in law school, not because you learn about emails, but you learn how to write concisely and to the point.
Yeah.
Being really not wasting words, not being a flowery writer. I wrote a lot of flowery papers in college because I had to get to 8-page lengths. Yeah. Lawyers do the opposite, and a lot of times you're trying to get it to as short as possible. Yeah. So I think that helps me, and frankly, what is one of my most common jobs, which is writing emails to people.
Absolutely.
And I am very good at that. I think just raw analytical skills you learn in law school. There's lots of places you learn analytical skills, but law school is probably the best. And I can break down problems, issues in my business and other people's business really well. I can articulate those problems well. And that's basically what you learn how to do in law school. You see a case or a set of facts, and you have to articulate the issues, and then the law, and then how sort of the issues apply to the law applies to the facts of the problem, and ultimately come to a conclusion. I think most of what I do in business is the same. You're solving problems. You have a set of facts about your company. You have some problem you're dealing with, and you have to figure out what other people have done or what sort of tactics you could take to solve that problem based on your set of facts.
It's interesting because it's like there's such gray areas in business and in startups that you have to be able to take all the facts in that you have, analyze, strategically think like, okay, if we go this direction, this happens, go this direction. I mean, there's so many different ways to peel it, and that probably taught you a lot about just
that. And then you have to tell the story, because ultimately you have stakeholders, whether they're your investors, your customers, or your team, people you work with. And sort of as a lawyer, you take the facts you get, right? You don't pick your clients, like your clients pick you, and then you have to take their facts and the law and argue their side of the case. And I think a lot of what you do as an entrepreneur is exactly that. I'm sure you've heard the term like the distortion field, right? You have to create this distortion field of the world as you see it, based on hopefully some facts, and get other people to believe it. And I think as a lawyer, you're doing the same thing. You have two lawyers argue the opposite side with the exact same facts, but somehow come to vastly different conclusions. And I think as an entrepreneur, you're doing that a lot. You have to convince people to work for you, investors to give you money, and customers to use your product, despite the likelihood that your product is worse, more expensive, and you're going to pay them less or whatever than alternatives. And I think those skills are valuable for that.